Hello and welcome to Kody and Korbin Have a Podcast, the show where two former roommates talk about a silent voice. I'm your host, Korbin Zvokel, and I'm joined by my far from silent co-host, Kody Webb. Kody, how are you doing, man?
Doing great. Probably most days you wish that I was a little bit more silent, but I'm excited to be back, man. I think we got a little anime month going on at KHAP here, so I'm excited to be back.
I think we both could at times use a little bit of a quieting to ourselves, but we are back for our second to last episode of the season. Like you said, we've been doing a little bit of an anime kind of thing to finish out. Of course, our last movie episode with Ron 2 episodes ago at the end of February, and we've got this one here today. We do also have something special planned for our 3-year anniversary and season finale, Kody. Don't want to tease anything too much, but coming Saturday night, definitely in the evening.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see the responses to it, but it'll be entertaining to say the least, I would think.
Yeah, big one coming up. But this episode's a big one too.
Oh yeah.
And we've brought back a very special guest from a previous episode. Welcome back, Christian Steiner. How you doing, man?
Doing good. Great to be back. Interesting to see what your guys' thoughts are on this movie. Seems like it may be a little bit different from what you probably are used to watching.
Absolutely. We love to expand our worldview, see new movies on the show. And you're a busy man, so we finally got you back. It's been a year and a half, I think, since that first episode, which is crazy.
It's just wild.
Yeah, time has flied, taking us back to like November of 22. But we're glad to have you back for an official movie episode. This is an exciting one.
Happy to be here. Ready to get into it.
We'll start with our first category, Christian. We had lunch over the holidays, and I mentioned to you, I was like, I want to get you back on the podcast. And you started to think about potential movies. And this is one that you threw out pretty early on. And I know it's also a favorite of yours. So why was it this movie specifically that you wanted to talk about?
Why me? Why did you pick me?
I think when it comes to anime movies specifically, people will talk about like Howl's Moving Castle, all of the Studio Ghibli movies, Your Name.
Oscar winner.
Really, yeah.
Shout out Miyazaki.
Miyazaki gets another. I was like, I recently saw this, forgetting which movie it was, but Howl's Moving Castle lost in the Oscars to, it was Wallace and Gromit.
Hey, wait, Wallace and Gromit, man.
Right? It is a classic, but it just had like his reaction. He was stone cold seeing his movie lose to that. So glad to see that he was able to get it with Boy and the Heron. So anyways, the reason why I decided to choose this movie though is I watched this movie for the first time my sophomore year of college. I was like, I didn't start watching anime until I was about a senior in high school, and started with Naruto because a lot of feel like that's pretty. Yeah, Dragon Ball, Naruto, pretty popular in Western culture. But start to expand, and like these movies do a pretty good job with telling the stories that they want to tell, and it's a little bit different pace from what might be used to with when people think of anime. So, I was like curious to see what your guys' thoughts were on this. It's one of my top 4 on Letterboxd, so definitely a movie that has a special place in my heart. And I thought it would be interesting, especially just being in the animation format.
It's definitely something different, and I think it's cool that we did Your Name a couple episodes ago, and we're talking about this in context, and I'm excited. Moving on over to Do You Remember? Of course, Kody and I did watch this for the very first time today. And the difference is with Your Name, we did the English dub for a silent voice. We asked you, what do you like to watch? What are you watching? And you requested the Japanese language version. I did at least watch that. I don't know. Kody, did you watch the Japanese version?
Did, yeah.
Yeah, so we went sub, not dub for this watch, which I think is actually also really cool in the context of the movie in terms of like the themes of language and all. There's a ton of sign language and written word in this, so it's like you'd be reading subtitles regardless if you're watching this movie. So or you'd be reading something if you were watching it even in your if in your language. So I thought this was the right way to experience it, and I'm glad that it was your request. I think you just said it, you like the performances, right?
I always tend to lean more with subbed, like just it feels more traditional to what the creators and the voice acting talent does a really good job. Not to take anything away from people who do the dub, and there are some really good dub. And I admit that there are some shows where I prefer to watch it in dub, partially because of how I grew up. Like Pokemon and Dragon Ball just feels weird hearing it in anything else when you've been exposed to it for that long, like that. But I watched Silent Voice for the first time in sub, and I was just the voice acting in general. It just feels natural with how it is. So,
have you ever checked out the dub version of this?
I have not, partially because it's like a separate thing, so I'd have to rent the movie as well with dub since they took it off of Netflix. That's where I first watched it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I did see that. I specifically on Amazon when I rented it had to like find the right version because they don't just let you rent both and and switch, which sucks. But I'm glad we experienced it this way. Kody, any other notes about the first watch experience for you?
I'm not a ton. I mean, I do like the sub, I think, a little bit better compared to our last episode. Like I said, it's kind of just a little bit more authentic, and I think more telling of what the creators would want to kind of see and hear from that angle. So I thought that was cool. And I mean, just reiterating too, I mean, I'm a complete anime noob, so I feel like my perspective here will be interesting throughout. But I really enjoyed this movie. I think it's fun to compare kind of this movie and Your Name. So I think it's a really good kind of dual episode. But I enjoyed it a ton, and yeah, we'll definitely dive into some of the more like deeper stuff pretty quickly here. But what about you, Corbrino?
One thing that I think I didn't love about Your Name was my comments on like the music and some of the songs not working. And also like
so good.
But like part of that I think is a translation thing because those songs are originally in Japanese and then they do like English language versions of them. So like maybe it would work a little bit better for me, like just listening to the original version and watching that in sub. Maybe I would have liked all the songs better. But in general, I typically do watch things in subtitles. Something that there's a new show, Shogun, that's out. I don't know if you've gotten a chance to check that out, Christian. I watched the first 2 episodes with my mom, and the limited series is primarily in Japanese. There's some English, which is, I guess, technically Portuguese in the context of the show, but it's primarily in Japanese with subtitles. But on Hulu, you can watch like a dubbed version where the actors have just like, because it is all Japanese actors that speak English, so they've just done their lines over.
So weird.
Which is, I mean, if it gets more people to watch it, I guess, but I stick with the subtitle versions. The performances are all incredible in that show. I would definitely recommend that as well. But yeah, subtitles, read, as Bong Joon-ho said, just a little 1-inch barrier. You can get past it.
Real quick before we move on, just a little aside on Your Name.
Yeah.
Some of the details of the movie, I admit, are a little hazy because I watched that sophomore year of college, so it's been 3-4 years now. But one moment I do remember, so from that movie where the asteroid, the meteor is hitting. I don't know if you guys remember that scene.
Oh, yeah.
When I was watching with my friend, he had a sound bar, and when that asteroid hit, the entire room just like reverberated from the base of.
It's a powerful sequence.
And
that is awesome.
Felt like his room was shaking, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is crazy." So I don't know. You guys talking about Your Name just brought that memory back.
The thing that we always say is Kody and I's sound setups are never good enough. We got to get the sound bar going in our houses. So we probably didn't get to experience the full.
We're slacking. Yeah.
Visceral nature of that.
Yeah,
but that's great.
He had a pretty expensive sound bar.
Hey, sound is it's an underlooked quality in the movie making process. I'm a big headphone guy. Like I love to wear these when I'm watching stuff. But you can't, that's obviously by yourself. So, but yeah, upgrade the sound systems.
One of the best things about Silent Voice, like even though, it is dealing with the topic of hard of hearing and communication with sign language, the score is just incredible. really liked how the piano kind of like helped bring out some of the emotional moments of the movie. So, just kind of adding to that, just how I feel with the score from Silent Voice.
It's a movie that in a certain way, like you get the emotional beats and feelings without having to read or understand the language. With the music and what you see visually, it kind of just follows along. Denis Villeneuve was recently quoted as saying, "Is like movies are not about dialogue, and it's about what you feel and experience." And this is a great example of that. Let's move on over to our initial thoughts.
Good morning, Vietnam!
I'll say right off the bat, I like this movie. I will say it probably doesn't resonate with me or maybe connect with like my interests as much as something like Your Name. I like the sci-fi aspects of that a little bit more. If I think of it like in a live action sense, that this probably isn't a story I would be naturally drawn to like either way. So it's like even in animation, it doesn't necessarily compel me. But what this movie and this conversation really highlights for me is like where this show started. Like it's about this show is about sharing movies with friends. That first episode we did, as we're nearing the end of season 6 here, the first episode was us watching Gone Girl, me getting Kody to watch Gone Girl because he would never do it. And then the idea was we would have people on and have them show us their favorite movies, and maybe it wouldn't be something we'd ever seen before, and we could just talk about it. So this is a great opportunity to do that, and I'm really glad that this is something that's so different and out there. There's beautiful animation, a really heartfelt story here. And I'm glad that we had the experience. Kody, I'll throw it over to you. What did you think about watching it for the first time?
I agree with your points there. This movie, it was not what I expected it to be. And I think, especially like I said, sort of a companion piece in a sense to Your Name, at least for myself. Obviously very,
they came out in the same year. They were going against each other at awards races. They will always probably be paired together in an interesting way.
I feel like you said, this one is more kind of a character piece, which I didn't expect at all. And it's not afraid to go into like a lot darker themes, I think, too. And it's sort of just a movie that's like the overlying themes are like, about loving yourself and accepting yourself. Even when there are like flaws with yourself that are clear and you don't like those flaws. And then obviously like both the kind of the main characters are kind of having doubts about, even, sticking around in life, which I was like, damn, I did not expect it to get kind of this deep. So I like that a lot. I think the script is kind of my favorite thing about this. The really interesting thing too, which I wanted to ask Christian about, but is there a ton of animes where they sort of focus in on like the character who is the bully? Because in this, I was shocked at like the character in the first half hour who's kind of an asshole and bullying this deaf girl ended up being, I mean, pretty much the protagonist. But is that like a common thing, or is that sort of a outlier?
This is definitely an outlier. That's like why this movie it just stuck out in my mind when I watched it for the first time, because you're not supposed to, the way that they present it is like Yoshida, the main character, he's not likable at first, but that's what makes his journey just so incredible, is despite all of his failings and what he did to Shoko, he was able to grow and move past it, and also become her friend in the end. But it's definitely an outlier when it comes to anime, even with like the quote unquote like slice of life genre. It's a little bit more straightforward than a movie like this. So just seeing kind of it like flipping the script is part of why it is endearing to me so much.
I love that. I think like you said, just the fact that that is kind of a weird thing that isn't completely normal in the genre, I think is very cool. And then along with that, like it's not overly like obsessed with this love story. It's more about kind of just redemption and these characters just being in a good mindset when the movie's over, versus I feel like with Your Name, it was more like, oh, if these characters don't end up together, like I'm going to be really mad. But I think even like the ending where they left it off is just like really cool emotionally and really cool storytelling, I think.
We'll see when we get to the recommendation portion of this, but it's hard because there's not many things that are quite like this. This is a pretty unique story. And in terms of the framing, like you said, which I do really appreciate about it.
Since the last time I watched this movie was probably a year and a half ago, since it was the third time I've seen it, And just knowing the background of the movie, the story before, just like seeing how the movie opened and where he is at there, because you don't have that context when you're just seeing him. It's like, oh, he's walking to the bridge. What is he? Oh, is he actually going to do it? Like, what drove him to this? And like just seeing the juxtaposition of that, where he is in that state versus where he is at the beginning of the movie. He's happy with friends and everything just seems like it's going well. But as soon as like I saw Shoko for the first time, I was like, "Oh, this is killing me," because I know it's about to happen and I know where the story goes. But it's still hard just seeing someone so helpless when it comes to a condition that they have that they can't change, and just being relentlessly bullied for it. Yeah, that's like definitely one thing that stands out. It's just felt like it hit me that much harder just because of knowing how much it affects the characters from just the incidents that they go through in elementary school. Just kind of like definitely one thing that stood out to me.
Yeah, I want to rewatch this because I feel like it is a movie that throws so much at you, and especially in that first act is paced and cut in a way that is different from what we're used to seeing, like you kind of mentioned, Christian, earlier. So where like on rewatch, you're like, oh shit, yeah, this like everything would become so much more meaningful, and you can see that like the journey. Once you know the story, the way it's being laid out for you probably becomes even more powerful. But yeah, the redemption stuff is crazy. This movie opening with our main character, about to kill himself is pretty intense. It's pretty adult, and it definitely sets the table for where we're headed from there.
I agree. I mean, again, I think a rewatch would definitely be necessary. The first like 15 to a half hour, however long kind of the prologue is, it is kind of tough to get through. Like you're saying, I mean, you just like feel for the characters. Even obviously this guy goes on a redemption arc, but I kind of hate that guy's guts in like the first 15 minutes of the movie, which is obviously I think what they're trying to do. But I think it is really kind of just twist that, I don't really see script wise anywhere else. So I love that.
Let's jump to IMDb Known For.
Do I know you? I mean, where do I know you from?
I wanted to start this by, talking about Your Name. Again, the director, this is a quote from Makoto Shinkai, director of Your Name. He called this film a fantastic piece of work, polished in grand production, which even he is unable to replicate. But of course, Your Name did win a few awards over this one. The director is Naoko Yamada. The 4 films I have here are A Silent Voice, the movie, K-On!, Liz and the Bluebird, and Beyond the Boundary. Christian, are you familiar with this director's work? She seems to this to be her big, seminal film.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with those movies that you listed, but looking through other stuff that she's done, whether it been anime series, I did recognize some of them. So I could share some of those that I found.
Yeah, what's some of the stuff she's worked on?
One of them that I haven't seen but I recognize, it's a swimming anime. So it's called Free, which I'm not really too familiar about it, but that was one of the ones I recognized. I have seen a movie that she did it's called like Tamako Love Story. I thought it was okay. It was kind of boring. Didn't really stick with me, but the big one that I recognized was this. It's an anime series, and they did a movie as a follow-up called Clannad, which is one of the most depressing pieces of work that I've ever seen.
Oh boy.
Honestly, it's probably even sadder than A Silent Voice.
Oh,
so to put it into perspective with how that works, because like what that kind of deals with is it starts from is usually what happens with a lot of these like slice of life anime is that you only really see like them in a school setting or just during like the high school years, where Clannad, it extends to adult life and dealing with loss and the grief that follows and how that affects other people that surround you. So I guess in a sense it's kind of like a redemption story that we saw with A Silent Voice, because in that movie character has to overcome the grief that they feel from losing the person that they care about the most. Yeah, so I guess those are just some of the works that I recognized when I was looking through her IMDb page. But before we continue with that, one thing I did want to point towards is what's interesting with like how anime works is that almost every single well, not almost every single, but a lot of the works in anime are adapted from source material, so manga. So the manga creator, I'm probably gonna be butchering her name, but Yoshiki Oyama. So her two big works are Silent Voice, and then currently it's an ongoing anime series, and she's also still writing it as a manga. It's called To Your Eternity, and I've only seen the first season of it, but what makes that one interesting is that it follows a similar theme, but in a way different setting, where it's like discovering who you are, figuring out what life is, and how do you live as a person, and kind of like what that movie is this person. They don't really specify it, but you can just—they're basically God. They have this. They create this orb, and it's like an experiment. They put this orb into the world, and the orb has the ability to take the shape of a person that dies, or like an object or a thing. And so when it goes down, it first turns into a rock, and then a dog dies next to it, so it becomes a dog. And then the dog goes with the person, and the person dies. And so, this orb gains all of these different experiences and learns how to communicate, and it's basically being shown, different aspects of humanity, and just what life is. But I wanted to plug that just because, usually when we talk about movies, then just wanted to talk about the source material that comes from it, and it is her work, and that is another really good piece of work that she's done.
Yeah, that's really cool. I had seen that this was based on a manga, but I'm really glad that you took out the chance to shout it out specifically. And I like the sound of this To Your Eternity one. I'm looking at it here. It's more in the sci-fi world, so it might be something
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more interested in. It's a really unique idea. I'd never really heard anything like that as well. Let's jump on over to the good, the bad, and the ugly. Kody, I'll let you get started. What's the good stuff, man?
I love this. So there are a few certain things that I really love. The first big one is the side characters. I think are elite here. The two that are my favorites, it is his like his eventually best friend who kind of just steps in and wants to be
Oh,
his best
man.
friend. Tomohiro, is that right? Tomohiro, yeah, the green hair kid, absolutely
Nagatsuku.
electric. Yeah, I think he just got like good vibes. Like that would be somebody I would want to be friends with. And I really love how he like gets super jealous when like anybody else even tries to talk to Shoya. But I thought he was hilarious throughout. And then Loki, like my favorite character is Yuzuru, which is
The little
obviously
sister.
yeah, Shogo's little sister. I thought they kind of carried the emotional stuff. Sort of even like their introduction where they didn't know who she was. They thought, he was, or they thought that she was Shoko's boyfriend when obviously she's her little sister. But it was kind of just like a sweet story where Shoya helped her out. I'm gonna lose the acronyms, rather, but brought her in. Was acting like really nice people, and it's like, oh, it's just my younger sister. So I thought that was funny, and then the rest of the movie though, I thought that's where she really carried. Like Yuzuru emotionally kind of just had the heartstrings. Her relationship with Graham was tough, but I loved her
Ugh.
throughout. The other thing as well with Tomohiro, he's an avid movie guy. He's always at the theaters, kind of laughing it up. He's also crying at the theaters, which I respect a lot. That's a real man right there. So I think those two side characters for me were my two favorites.
You might be spoiling a little invite fight night there, Kody.
Same
Acronyms,
thing.
Kody? Pronouns?
Whatever, bro. I'm gonna lose the acronyms, bro. The acronyms. Leave that in.
What are your acronyms?
It's
HE.
Yeah, no comment. But it's hard because they switch back and forth. Like, it's
No,
her boyfriend.
I
Also,
understand
it's
why
her
you messed it
sister.
up. I just thought it was funny
Yeah,
to call it acronyms. I think this movie has some genuinely funny moments. So like the stuff with Nagatsuku, him going a block away when he finds out that it's her little sister, when he like jumps away, that's just really funny. There's just all these little character beats that surprised me to find. Also on top of that, it's a really good, like I said, redemption narrative. You can find relatable elements in all the characters. the worst ones, the best ones, like the worst parts of yourself, the best parts of yourself you can see, which is what makes some of that, first stuff hard to watch at different points. And it really doesn't pull any punches. Like I said, it opens with a suicide and has another one like 3/4 or 2 attempted suicides, another one 3/4 of the way that ends up with somebody in a coma. So I found this, to be like a really shocking and real story. Also, like the isolationism stuff, my background, all the X's, like to me, that was the stuff that personally I'm most connected to. I think, especially when we think about like coming out of a post-COVID world and like how disconnected we've become as a society and how hard it was to kind of like see people face to face. And even like me personally, I struggle with that sometimes. I related a lot to this. When that moment when he like talks to the person and the X kind of floats down off their face and hits the ground, that just like was really powerful. And that alone was like enough to be like, I'm really glad I watched this movie because I found that stuff to be really compelling.
I agree. I think visually that's kind of something else just super unique about this that I don't know if anybody else would even kind of think to try that with the whole X thing. And it kind of just obviously it goes deeper into the character of Shoya too, of like he really has kind of been broken by this incident, even though he was the instigator, and then kind of just his journey to redemption. And he's scared to even people like look people in the eyes. Which I think is just a really cool character beat, and him just becoming more social and more, willing to accept other people, I think is a really cool arc.
I'll throw it over to you, Christian. What's some of your good stuff, man?
I definitely like how you guys brought attention to Yuzuru and Tomihiro. One thing that's actually kind of interesting is I was kind of like looking at differences. I've never read the manga, but I was just curious. So I was looking through some of the differences between the anime and the manga because, it's initially a manga series. So in order to adapt it into a movie, they had to cut some stuff out. And one of the things that they cut out was that, so at the end, they're at the culture festival, and that's where he has his realization. And another thing that they're kind of like working on throughout the manga is, Tomihiro is a big movie guy, so he wants to do a movie with all of his friends, and so they're working on that. And when he has his realization in manga is when he's watching that movie and he sees all of the hard work that all of them put in. And like now I'm kind of wishing that maybe we could have somehow fit that in because that feels a little bit more powerful of an ending. Not to say that the way that it ended in this was bad, because I still really like the ending and the realization because he's still going through and experiencing the culture festival with his friend. But I feel like that's more unique to him and his friends and that whole situation there. But, the good for me definitely is Yoshida's redemption story. And, it goes to show that, you could commit some awful acts. And with that being said, it's also great on Shoko being able to accept that he's willing to change. Like, definitely probably really hard when you see your childhood bully in front of you for the first time. But, their whole character arc is just something that is really special to me.
Two things with that. I think the change from their character is earned. Like it's not an easy redemption. It's not like she doesn't forgive him right away. He has to really go out of his way to prove that he's a different person, that he himself, is deserving of friendship and love and all that. And that, is felt at the end of the movie. I also really like that movie plot line from the manga. I wish that would have been translated on screen. Kody and I always talk about anytime movies about movies. We love that stuff. It would have been a cool ending. Maybe it was too on the nose. They didn't want to do it in the movie, but
I think they already had a lot they had to juggle with.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole nother, like, he's got to shoot a movie.
Yeah.
Abed running around in Community making the movie. Yeah,
it would have been a little weird at the end if all of a sudden it was like, oh, they've been all making a movie this time.
Yeah, I mean, they could have just given the guy a camera. I guess there's already another camera plot point too, so that's confusing.
Oh yeah, that's true. Double down on the camera. I don't know. That'd be tough.
And then, real quick, another good thing that I want to draw attention to is, so what do you guys think of Maria, his little niece?
Yeah,
all cute. Those moments were just like, it felt kind of heartwarming seeing their reaction. their relationships with each other. I don't know. That just was something that I felt like I didn't really pick up on, but I think it's definitely endearing to see how much he cares for his little niece and how pure she seems.
Something I like about it is just that it's kind of like a different family dynamic that we see on screen. It's, he's got the older sister who's living there, and we find out at the end it's her husband who's in the military that comes home, but like it's not really explained. It's just another like character detail that makes this world seem real.
Another thing that I was definitely trying to pay attention to is like, do we actually see his sister at all during the movie? And we do see her once at the end, but Maria is blocking her face. They still never actually show her face. We get to see her husband, but we don't get to see his sister. So it's like, how close are him and his sister? I don't know.
Isn't there a scene earlier in the movie where his sister like yells at him, I think, to watch the niece? I think
she's there, but I don't think we ever see her face. I think because even at the end I was like, I don't think, because when the husband showed up, that kind of clicked. I was like, wait, I don't know what his sister looks like. And then at the very end, she's like holding up Maria like right in front of her face. I was like, well, I guess they just didn't want to, animate her face. Yeah, it is interesting.
I like that.
Another good I'll throw out here too as well. Kind of mentioned it off the top, but I think just the animation style and the visuals are pretty awesome here. My kind of favorite two scenes, pretty much anytime Shoya is riding on his bike to and from school, just like the movement of the fields and kind of the changing of the flowers. I think it's just absolutely beautiful. And then the scene that we mentioned as well, the fireworks scene at the end. I think just the visuals on that, even though it is obviously a bit distracting by, some attempted suicide and stuff, I think everything before that, just visually, I thought was really good.
Going back to the fireworks scene real quick, what's kind of interesting with that is that usually what you see in a lot of like slice of life romance anime is they always have a fireworks scene. There's always a fireworks festival going on.
I'm a sucker for a firework.
I'm on board with it. Yeah.
Usually that like caps off the, it's supposed to be symbolic for, it's like usually you might have like a pretty endearing scene with fireworks in the background. It's like, oh, this is coalescing of the plot line of whatever it is as a whole. So to see that kind of like juxtaposed with a suicide attempt, it kind of like throws your brain in a different direction. Having something so dark and jarring with what's usually supposed to be more of like an affirmation of that, affirmation of like moving past whatever issues are being had in the anime that you're watching. So I thought that was interesting, just choosing to have that moment happen during what's usually a pretty lighthearted time in most slice of life anime.
I like that you bring that up because in that moment I did not see that coming. It definitely feels like they're probably gonna kiss here or something.
Yeah.
Kody, were you thinking the same? Like this is
100%. I mean, obviously it starts out with like darker themes, so I guess you could kind of assume that it'll keep going, but I agree with Christian. I mean, especially when the fireworks are popping, I think it's going to be a happy ending here at the end, and it kind of just does I
gotta go study.
yeah. But I like that. I mean, again, the unpredictability of the script, I think is something that I really enjoy about this.
Last thing I'll hit on in the good here. We've talked already, but I love the music as well. It's fantastic. And then it also opens with a song from The Who, My Generation by The Who, which I think is just a fun choice. And I love that shout out.
I had one last thing. I mean, just the inclusivity of obviously a deaf character pretty much being like the co-lead, I think is super cool. I mean, even like seeing, someone's perspective of, going through hardships and being bullied because you're different, I think is very cool and obviously can relate to a ton of people. So I really just like kind of the diversity of including that in the story.
One last thing that I'll mention about Yoshida that I found interesting was just like the changing of his posture throughout the movie, his mannerisms. Like, you see at the beginning how unsure he is of himself to the point where he's willing to explore suicide, and then it cuts to him as a kid and he's full of confidence in life and he's just messing around, and but after everything that happened, you can see how his experiences have changed him. He's unsure of himself. He doesn't know who to trust. He's convinced himself that no one else, that everyone would be better off without him. And you can see that start to change, but kind of like how it's not fully changed by the end of the movie. Like It's still a lot of work to do, but they're moving in the right direction. And that's just something that definitely stood out to me on my rewatch as well.
That's cool for sure. And he still stays true to himself though. He's got that tag sticking out throughout the movie.
Yeah, some things don't change.
Let's jump over to the bad stuff. Kody, I'll make you start here again. What didn't really work for you?
I'm not gonna lie, my first thing was gonna be that his shirt tag is always sticking out. So it's my line there. But yeah, that always irks me for some reason. In general, I think my biggest gripe, and I don't think it's a massive gripe, but maybe it's a bit too long. I think you could probably cut out a scene here and there and get it down below 2 hours, and I think I'd be fine with it. But other than that, kind of a weird character thing that I wanted to start off with. His mom isn't in it a ton. Show you his mom, and her like introductory scenes is kind of her like burning all of his money that he, was doing a part-time job and earned. And then like in association with that scene, when he gets home, she kind of just like weirdly is like creepily standing like in the hallway, just kind of like staring at him. So I thought her intro was weird. As the movie went along, I did like her a lot more, but I just thought she was kind of annoying and creepy the first impression, which is tough.
I think both the adults, or I don't know, all the adults in this movie are a little bit strange in their
Yeah, I mean,
characterizations.
their mom
but I
is
mean, it's a
also an
movie
asshole, too.
from like a perspective from the perspective of like teenage characters. So I get the characterization. There's another moment with the mom I want to bring up later, but I'll save it. That I wanted to ask you guys about. But for me, I agree. I think it is a little bit too long. We talked about that first act. It is kind of hard to get through, both because it's like really tough to watch, and just I think the pacing again, like it's a little strange the way it kind of cuts back and forth. And then once we hit the second act of the movie, we jump forward in time, and then I feel again it's like it's hard for me a little bit to keep track of like how much time is passing, and there's just a lot going on. There's a lot being thrown at you. There's a lot of very dramatic elements and character moments, and you've got like these high school girls who are being very intense and mean. It's just like it's a lot. It's tonally melodramatic in a very particular way that I think took a second for me to kind of get used to. Once I acclimated myself, it worked a lot more for me. But I think I struggled with just some of that pacing stuff and some of the tone early on. Christian, is there anything in this movie that you think doesn't work? I know it's one of your favorites, but to be nitpicky.
I was able to find a bad and an ugly for later.
Okay, beautiful. Double duty. I like it.
Just to kind of like hit on your pacing gripe, I think on the second rewatch, the pacing didn't really bother me as much. Maybe because I already had an idea of what happened and I was more focused on just like how these characters were acting at that specific time rather than like trying to actually understand the story that's going on. I guess it would be interesting if you guys do end up rewatching it at some point, if that changes for you as well. But to hit on my bad, what rubs me the wrong way is how quick like Shoko is able to forgive Ueno. I know, the black-haired girl.
Yeah, the cat girl
he sits next to. Because like at the end of the movie, she calls her stupid.
The Ferris wheel scene is crazy.
Yeah, brutal.
Corrects her. It's like I never really felt like there was I didn't really feel like there was a closing moment for them. She still is trying to appease her. Even Yoshida is trying to get her to move past in some instance. Like you can see that Ueno doesn't really show her feelings very well, but still not an excuse for still how she treats Shoko. So the way that was handled was definitely something that stuck out to me. In the end, it's minor because she's not necessarily the main focus of the story, but I feel like there was still more to unpack there.
No, I agree. I'm a little confused because she's really the one that's just like is consistently a jerk throughout. Like everybody gets a little bit of redemption. Like there's Sahara, like the different people, like we like them, and she's just kind of like, why are they even still trying to be friends with her? She comes in with the cat.
Yeah.
Her story doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't get it.
It's like she keeps trying to insert herself into their group, and then they're just
and then
like,
be a
okay,
mean person.
I guess she's here. She's been a character in the movie. I guess we have to include her.
Right, because she went to Element. She like she still goes to school with Sahara, I think is the thing, right? But not my favorite
completely
character.
too. That was one of my massive things as well, especially at like there's a couple big blow-ups, but at the amusement park, they obviously find the video, and I feel like at that point, she would kind of be kicked out of the group. But then they all kind of meet up, obviously, at that one spot, and Ishida kind of goes off on everybody. But then even after he does that, when they all come back together, she's still there again. So I don't really get it. And she's like visiting him at the hospital. It seems like maybe they have a deeper connection, but it's kind of just one-sided, it almost feels like. Yeah, I think you could have cut most of her scenes and I would have been fine. But she is a good antagonist. I hate her guts, to be fair.
And she shares the name with our director, Naoko. So
Yeah,
that's unfortunate.
Maybe they resonate with her for some reason. But that's funny.
Kody, any other bad stuff?
I did have one thing, and this is a big time nitpick, so bear with me. But fast forward to the end. Obviously, we had a very heroic act where Shoko was saved, and then Shoyo kind of takes the fall, obviously. But then when he wakes up, he's just waking up in an empty hospital. Where are the nurses? Where are the doctors? He just gets all the way out of the hospital to go, of course, talk to Shoko and have an amazing moment. But that kind of just irked me of like, how do you get out of this hospital so easily after being in a coma? So kind of strange.
That was my ugly. That it just
My bad.
It doesn't make sense at all. Just from a realistic perspective, just seeing this man, he just wakes up. He's like, I need to go to this one specific spot and meet up with her because she's gonna be there, and I know that she'll be there. I guess I can play into kind of like a star-crossed lovers kind of thing, but he'd been asleep in a coma for the past 2 months. It's never specified, but this man just was able to get up and start running. Like his body did not have to adjust or anything. He just got up and went. But it's like it did lead to such an emotional moment, but that still just cracks me up whenever I see it, because it's like, yeah, that's probably the one part of the movie where it's not really that realistic.
Maybe it's a commentary on the Japanese healthcare system. I don't know.
We just don't get it. We don't. Yeah.
Cody, any what's your ugly? Since we're
well,
there.
I mean, it's tough. That would be a good one. I mean, the obvious ones is just bullying a deaf girl until she's suicidal.
I mean, let's run through it. He throws dirt in her face.
Well, yeah, I guess all the bullying that they do specifically, they make her ears bleed.
They break 8 hearing aids.
Brutal.
They yell at the back of her head in the class. There's the whole like Nisha Mies thing, which is just like a real tough, all bad.
Mm-hmm. And then along with it, I mean, that's bad enough. But then they bully the bully until he's suicidal as well. So just a lot of bullying, and obviously it's not really any good in any sort of society. But I like the depiction, but definitely still deserves being the ugly.
There's the one scene, I think it's I don't remember which character. One of them, when they see Shoko for the first time, they're like, "Oh, your chest got big. What's your cup size?" I just thought that was a really strange.
That was Sahara.
line. Sahara, that's what it was. Okay.
I guess
Shout
that
out.
didn't really bother me as much because there's more stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, like I'm sure teenage girls. It's just
a great line. Yeah, it's a great
maybe
line.
it's weird with the translation.
Like, oh, I'm just gonna remove myself from this this conversation because I don't know what to say.
And then the last thing I'll say, show you, the Meow Meow Club is lit. I would go hang out with the cats. He's just being a hater, and I find him really ugly.
Yeah, how do you not like being in a cat cafe? Like, come on, it's dope.
One last thing I'll draw an attention to is I think the absolute worst character. And he's supposed to be this way. Is his name is Shimada, the blonde-haired guy that he was friends with, that he saw at the amusement park.
Yeah,
like he's literally just the same person, just an asshole. And you know what? There are people like that. It's like some people aren't willing to change. So I guess in the end, it was kind of good to show him like, hey, this isn't everyone. Some people are stuck, but maybe one day he would have his redemption moment.
That's the sequel. Silent voice too.
Yeah.
Let's take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back.
Thanks for listening to the episode. You can follow the rest of our happenings over here at Kody and Korbin Have a Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at KHAP Podcasts, KHAP. Please follow us on Spotify, give us a rating, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow along for more.
And we're back with Invite Fight Night.
Totally invite your personal friend, Spider-Man.
I want to fight you.
Hans. Bobby. I'm your white knight.
This is a fun one. We already talked about it. Tomohiro, he is the movie guy. I mean, he goes and watches the movie, so we got to get him on the movie podcast. And also, like I said, you just want a homie you can go to the movies with and cry. And then I love the French fry and ketchup, just smoking it like a cig later, like all that energy we need on the podcast.
Yeah, I'll just jump in because that was also my pick as well. I mean, this guy's a baller. Obviously, I said he was one of my favorite characters, and we need him on the pod. He's got the good vibes. He can get emotional talking about movies. He's got the impressions. He's got it all, really. He's kind of the better version of me. So I think he needs to get on. Yeah.
Christian, what do you think, man?
So, I mean, Tomohiro was my pick as well, but just to throw out a different pick, one person's perspective that I would like to get is he was the orange-haired dude, red-haired dude. You remember?
Yeah. It's Miki's friend. It's Satoshi. Satoshi Mishiba.
It's kind of like the morally right. He had like the moral compass. You know, especially when he was telling Yoshida, like, "Oh, so that person we've been hanging out with, I heard that she was bullied as a kid, and that's unforgivable." And he's like, "You're right."
Yeah, man, that's tough. I can't believe someone would do that.
Who would do that?
Yeah, who would do that? He seemed like he was a pretty chill dude, and we don't really get to see him as much. He's kind of just there, so maybe give him a platform to speak his mind, like his perspective, because I don't think we really get that during the movie. So, I'll throw that out for him.
He seems like a great guy. I love the shout. Fight, Kody. Who do you want to fight?
I mean, we just talked about her. It's of course the dickhead girl, Naoko, or whatever her name is, but I just can't stand her. Obviously, she's got mad beef with Shoku. I mean, she just doesn't like her for some reason. And it's pretty much just because she's different. So I got beef with her, and yeah, I'm ready to fight.
Christian, I'll throw it over to you.
Mentioned him earlier, the blonde-haired dude. Got beef with him. As soon as the situation turned bad, he just threw his friend under the bus and then just completely cut him off to the point where he just absolutely ruined this dude's confidence. And then when he sees him again, it's just the same thing. It's like, why are you here? I know he didn't really specifically say stuff to Yoshida. It was directed towards Ueno for trying to instigate it, but he causes Yoshida so much trauma. And it's just like, I know if Tomohiro was there, he'd probably fight him for us.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, there's a lot of people that are at certain points deserving of a fight, but I guess the movie's also very much positioning the idea that everybody can be redeemed. So I believe in all these people. I'll say whoever made those hearing aids so expensive, we'll fight them, because fuck that system, right? The poor girl.
Just going after the Japanese healthcare system again.
Yeah, again, I guess it's the double duty. Knight, Kody, you were hating on earlier, but I'm gonna show out for Shoya's mom. The moment specifically when she goes and pays back the mother for the all the hearing aids and everything, and then we see that scene that kind of we keep getting cut back to, where she's got like the bloody ear. It's very subtle, and I even had to like look up and try and like figure out what was going on, because it's like this one couple frames of the movie where after Shoya's mother goes to Shoko's mother and repays her for the hearing aids, you see her returned with like her earring pulled out and a bloody ear, and there's like blood on her, and it's nothing is said about it. It's not addressed.
Is like Shoya there though? Is it from his perspective, I guess?
Yeah.
Yes. So from what I can garner, like he notices it, but she doesn't say anything about it. And it's one of the cool things about this movie, where I think there's a lot of that, where it's like on a rewatch, you would probably notice more of these moments where it's very subtle character building stuff that they don't even have to address, show, not tell. And I think with the moment, I mean, you could interpret it, I guess, in a few different ways, but to me, it's almost like or from what I've read, like she ripped it out of her ears as like, this is so like such a terrible thing my son did. I'm trying to repay you. And also like, you can have this because it's valuable, like a sign of respect. And also, like trying to make amends for what her son did. And I think it's really powerful. And then there's other interpretations too. So, but I think she's deserving of the night.
Oh, and jump in there too. I mean, maybe it could just be like, if it's from Shoya's perspective, like him just seeing that just because he feels kind of bad, like his sort of grief is coping with that a little bit. But that is interesting. On a rewatch, I feel like there's a ton of details that I want to go into.
There was a scene towards the end of the movie. He's looking at Shoko and he sees the scar from when he did that to her. So maybe that's kind of like a bit of a roundabout way. He's like, oh, yeah. I did that. You know, it's not like when he first sees her again, it's, you know, after they've gone through all they did in the movie, and he's like, wow, that was me. And, you know, she has a scar from him. So, you know, it's definitely something, you know, that caused her a lot of pain and like dealing with that. So, I don't know, maybe that's kind of like tying into that, instead of him having to take the punishment, his mom took the punishment upon herself. You know, it's like an ear lose.
An ear for an ear.
For an ear.
Yeah, kind of. I like that. It is a bloody sight. There's a lot of real pain. There's real scars in this world. What is your night, Christian?
I mean, the easy one is Yoshida, but kind of want to talk about Yasuhiro's development too. I mean, when we first see her, she's not even going to school. She's kind of like, you can definitely tell that she has issues with her mother. It's never really expanded upon, so that's like another thing that, as we were talking about, just subtle instances in the movie that you could probably pick up when we rewatch. It's like you assume it's probably just, you know, differences of opinions with having a teenager versus, you know, a parent, but definitely seeing her change and her acceptance and finally going to school and actually submitting her photos and taking pride in her work. I think that's a commendable thing. It's like definitely tell she was close with her grandmother and how that affected her. And you know, it's definitely interesting to see her relationship, or not her relationship, but her friendship with Yoshida grow throughout the movie. And you can definitely tell that they start to gain trust and appreciate his intentions.
Yeah, definitely.
I do agree completely with that. I think that's what I was trying to say earlier with my good. So very, very well said there. I did actually go with that redhead kid we were talking about earlier. I believe it's Toshi is his name. I wouldn't knight him specifically for the moments where, obviously, like I said before, when Shoya kind of just is a dick to everybody, and he's like, "You're not even a part of our group." And then at the end, this kid comes back, like he forgives him instantly. He doesn't kind of hold burdens. So I thought, like you had said before too, Christian, like just morally, I think this may be the most centered character. So I wanted to give him the knighthood here.
All right, let's move on over to the recast.
Bond. James Bond. My name's Bond. James Bond.
The name's Bond. James Bond.
The name's Bond. James Bond.
This is a bit of a tough one. I decided to just have a fun thing with it where I'm going to do a casting for an English dub of this with 2000s Disney stars. So I'm going to start with Zac Efron playing Yoshida, our boy Shoya. And then Tomohiro, the little man, is going to be Moises Aries, real comic comedic star. Our cat girl, Ueno, our hater, that's going to be Miley Cyrus. She's going to be the bully in this sense. Miki, we're gonna pick Bridget Mendler for that role. Sahara's going to be played by Demi Lovato. Yuzuru, the little sister, we're actually going to take the Sprouse twins as children, and we're going to have her play that. It's going to be, that's why they think it's a little boy, but it's just a little child. And then of course we want, like, we're going to cast an unknown to play the main role of Shoko. We need like an actual deaf person, but you know, this is the rest of the crew.
I was going to say maybe one of the people from
I was just
there you go. Yeah,
the Quiet Place girl. She'd be amazing. Just put her in with the Disney cast, and she would absolutely rock that. But that was exactly what I was going to say too, which is funny. But I don't know if there's, like, the thing is too, there's not a ton of representation.
Millicent Simons, of course. Yes.
Yeah, she's awesome. I think she may be the only kind of like deaf actress I can name off the top of my head too, which sucks. So
for children, for sure. Yeah.
Well, who's an adult?
Well, of course, there's the Oscar winner, Marley Matlin. Oscar winner Marley Matlin. Cody, fuck you. I pulled the name. I got it.
What year was that?
Fucking 2 years ago.
Oh yeah. Oh, you're right. I like that guy a lot.
The guy, sorry, Troy Kotzer is the guy. Troy Kotzer. Troy Kotzer won 2 years ago for Coda. Marley Matlin won in the 80s, but she was also in the movie Coda. So okay. There you go.
Good detail. But Troy Kotzer's awesome too. Shout out both of them. Anyway, my recast is not as cool as Korbin's. I was just thinking, like, similar lines. English dub here. Obviously, we're not going to come up with any recasts for any, you know, Japanese voice actors, unfortunately. But we're going kind of boy and heron here. If this had a massive kind of release, who would I want to see play the main two roles? Shoya. I was thinking maybe Rob Pat. That's pretty basic, obviously, because he was in The Boy and the Heron. But I'm pairing him up with Tomohiro, Tom Holland. I think that would be a really fun duo. And then for Shoko, I went Emma Watson. I think they kind of just give off similar vibes altogether. So that would be a fun duo.
Perks of being a wallflower, Emma Watson.
Facts.
Sure.
I admit I didn't necessarily give this part as much thought, but from hearing what you guys say, three castings that I'll offer up to complement it, and a potential alternate to Tom Holland. What about going in the same vein from the Spider-Man movie, his best friend, have him play Tomohiro?
Bartolone, Jacob Batalone.
Batalone. I like that a lot. Yeah. Get him a green wig. I'm on board.
Star of Cody's fantasy film. What's that stupid movie called, Cody?
Which one?
Tarot card. He's star of the horror movie Tarot.
It's on my bench, so.
Then his sister's husband. What if it was like Michael B. Jordan?
Hell yes.
And you just see Michael B. Jordan just randomly show up. It's like, hey, I'm here to pick up Maria or something like that.
That guy was jacked at the end too.
That'd be a great role. Yeah.
Then for the red-haired dude, kind of like morally compass, like centered person, Ryan Gosling, just dye his hair red.
Put Ryan Gosling in everything after this past weekend.
Facts. I want to see him with red hair too. That'd be awesome.
So yeah, that's how I'll compliment your guys' cast.
I love it. We've built something really special here. Let's move on over to the rating.
But do you like me?
Christian, I'll let you start. Out of 69, what would you rate?
Would I be able to ask why you guys picked 1 to 69 as your rating?
I can't imagine. It's just
no reason.
I think it's like a number that percentages go really well into. There's a lot of, you can divide 69 really easily.
It's easy to rank, very even number for sure.
It's hard because I never want to be a person who picks like no movie is truly perfect.
If it's your favorite, we respect people who
respect it either way.
A
5-star.
Yeah, well, what I was gonna say was like, even though I give movies like 5 stars on Letterboxd, it's not necessarily meaning like it would be a perfect movie, but it's a movie that means a lot to me. So if I had to give it a rating out of 69, I probably would just give it. Let's go 66.5. 67. We'll go 67.
Oh, 67.
Respect.
Very beautiful. I like it. Cody, what do you think, man?
This is tough because, especially comparing to our Your Name episode, it is very similar. I gave both movies 4 stars. I kind of agree with you a little bit, Korbin. I think maybe Your Name is just built for me a little bit more, some of the sci-fi aspects. So I'm going to put it right below it at 60 out of 69. Still a movie I did enjoy a lot, and one I do want to revisit soon.
Well, I'm going to be the Debbie Downer here and give it a 44, but my ranking system is different than Cody's.
It's bonkers, yeah.
Listen, I'm going to give this like 3 stars. I like the movie a lot. I think there's really solid aspects to it. But again, just like story-wise, it doesn't necessarily connect with me. I don't know. I would say this conversation did make me like it more. So maybe I'll bump it to like a 45 just because I'll bring it up.
I think you love yourself too much. You can't relate, but yeah.
Wow. Tough look there, Cody. You might also like.
Who knows? You might like it. It's a killer rush.
Like I said, this is a tough one to give some recommendations for, but I'm sure Christian can do a better job than us. So we'll let him start.
If you like this movie, definitely check out Clannad. It's a series. It's a little more depressing than A Silent Voice, which is kind of hard to do.
Yeah.
If you go like just the movie route, I'm just gonna throw out some more anime movies, not necessarily relating to like the topic of A Silent Voice, but one that I think every movie lover should check out is Perfect Blue. Perfect Blue was like one of the first, I would definitely put it as like one of the first movies that probably brought the like anime movie to the forefront. It's like Akira is definitely the first one that comes to mind for people with like kind of mainstream and the cultural impact that's had. I've never seen it. It's on my list. I need to watch it. But Perfect Blue, Satoshi Kon movies are a trip, and he's actually mentioned that that's why he prefers doing it in more of an animation style, because it allows him to do things that he wouldn't be able to if it was a live action. But it's like interesting because you get a look into a different country's culture and some of the problems they might have to go through with like idol culture, which is what Perfect Blue dives into. But definitely what I would recommend. Another movie that was endearing to me that I would recommend is called I Want to Eat Your Pancreas, which is very weird title and it might put people off, but it's dealing with this girl who has pancreatic cancer and kind of like being deaf, but also finding joy in the life that you have.
Good recommendations. Appreciate the shout outs there. For me, I struggle here. I think in terms of just like movies about like regret and love and stuff, like, I don't know, Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind is like something that maybe comes to mind.
Yeah.
And I guess like Past Lives is a movie that deals with similar ideas of, what could have happened, but nothing is really, nothing I have ever seen is quite like this. So I really struggled to find a good relation. I shouted out Akira on our last episode as like my anime movie that I like a lot. I do fuck with Akira a ton. And then I'll say Mina and I have a few, I think Perfect Blue is an example of one, a few different ones that are on our MK300 list. So we will be at some point, diving in and discussing that in the future. Kody, well, what about you? Any recs?
I do have a couple. I think Eternal was on my list from our Your Name episode, so I think that's fun. But for this one, I mean, the first one just like that gives off similar vibes. Maybe it was like Manchester by the Sea, just because of those
Sad.
like deeper kind of suicidal scenes and stuff like that. And that's a great movie. And then my other one, which is tied into the Emma Watson, and you mentioned it already, is Perks of Being a Wallflower. I think that for me was maybe the most similar kind of plot wise. Obviously, like high school kids trying to figure out their lives and stuff. So I enjoy that a lot too. So that would probably be my other pick.
Very nice, Kody. The final question.
All right, listen, I got one last question for you.
What's your final question, Kody?
Yeah, I'll kick us off, and this could be completely over everybody's head. So if not, let me know. But when I was thinking about animation in general, I kept, for some reasoning, harkening back to Disney, remaking these in live action. So I guess this is more towards you, Christian, but do you think in the future, because obviously Hollywood and, Bollywood, all the woods are going to run out of ideas eventually. Do you think it could be a trend eventually where they start making like live action versions of anime?
Yeah, I mean, we're already seeing that with like
really, jeez,
the Death Note a while ago that was terrible.
And Netflix did what was the One Piece? They did their One Piece live action.
Right.
Yeah, and that was actually really good. I enjoyed that. It was a different take. I mean, if I had to choose, I would still choose to watch the anime, but it was a good jumping on point, especially because One Piece is pretty hard to get into because it has over 1,000 episodes in it. Bringing up One Piece, I'm gonna steal myself because I could go on and on about that. It's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite series, English, Japanese, just that I've ever seen. The One Piece live action is one of the few that actually had a good adaptation.
What do you think, Korbin? I mean, obviously this is a typical thing, but I don't know. It's something I don't love with Disney, but I guess if it's such long episodes and long series, I guess going live action could make it more inclusive to a lot of people.
I mean, we talked about how like J.J. Abrams was slated to do the Your Name live action adaptation.
Bad,
like this movie, I think at least is like a story that you could capture in a live action sense and like make it work. And again, like if that reaches more people and gets to a bigger audience, then I think that's probably a positive thing, right? Like if the difference between live action animation is more eyes, then I think that's a net positive. But this is great. You don't need a different version. I wouldn't. Yeah. That's the thing. Like I wouldn't like it. I personally wouldn't like it better if it was in live action, but maybe somebody would. And if that makes a difference, then money. I don't know.
Money.
Well, it's like the difference between a live action silent voice and a like animation is like your background. The emphasis. It's like I feel like that's a pretty big part of the movie. It's kind of like it's a visual representation of how it's feeling. It's interesting to see how if a live action movie would try and juggle that aspect.
Yeah, that is a good point. I don't think you could really capture that in any effective way that would be as good as we see here. My final question is, do you think you could have saved her, Kody or Christian? Could you have reached over, pulled her up, and not gotten yourself into a coma? Or would you be just as bad?
So we have to be better than them. It would be better than him and not go into the coma. That's the question?
Yeah, or not fall in the first place.
My answer would definitely be no as well. I mean, it's hard to pull up another human being who's already, falling off a ledge, I would say. And then, yeah, when you're using kind of all of your weight to get them back up there, I would probably fall in as well. So that's an easy no for me.
You're not built different. So
No,
Kody versus loses this round. Christian, what do you think?
100%.
I think I would have gotten to her before she fell because I wouldn't have taken off my shoes before I ran.
Hey, this guy.
He also tripped over a table and stuff. So,
yeah, that was bad. I thought he was gonna like run through the glass door too. I was like, come on, man, open it. But he was better than that at least.
It's nice to see he still has reference for Japanese culture and tradition while he's trying to prevent someone from jumping off a ledge. He had the presence of mind to take his shoes off before he started running.
Wasted a little bit of time there, unfortunately. Christian, what's your final question, man?
Since you guys had your introduction with your name, now Silent Voice, I'm just curious to see, like, has this changed the way you've thought of anime? Are you interested in maybe pursuing more works in this medium? So, like, how do you guys feel about that after watching two of the more popular and bigger anime movies?
It definitely has changed my perspective a lot. And like I was saying, I think maybe with your name, that was, I think, the prototypical thing of what I would think an anime would look like. But this kind of did something completely different. So I think that's super cool. And yeah, I think, of course, just like those two directors from these two movies, just like looking at their filmography going forward, I think will be just a plethora of stuff that I have the ability to go through. So I love both those choices as kind of a starting point for myself, at least.
I think it leads me into the kind of thing that I like. It gives me a better idea of what I should be looking for. So like when you talked about that To Your Eternity earlier, like that's something I can identify as something that would be more interesting to me. So I always say, like, in animation, if you're gonna do something, like, use the fact that you're in animation to explore the greater bounds. So like the X's is a great example of this. It's a simple story, slice of life, like you've kept saying throughout this podcast. But I like the idea of the bigger worlds, the more intense sci-fi fantasy. So like, yes, I'm more interested, but I am going to be discerning in what I seek out specifically. And like I said, there's a few on the MK300 list, and there's definitely going to be more in the future. But I'm glad we got the chance to talk about them here. Let's move on over to the 3-movie mini draft.
Well, it is draft day.
We are at the end of our season, so we are drafting films that we've discussed here in season 6. I won't reveal the whole list just because you'll hear our picks as we go. If you've been listening, there's a lot of great episodes on each of these. Christian's our guest, so he gets the first pick. What are you thinking, Christian?
To me, there's definitely a top 3 from the list. Just to stick with the anime theme of this episode, I'm going to take Your Name first. Your Name is a fantastic movie. It's one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen. If you want a good follow-up to Your Name, Weathering with You, it's not as good from a story, like a plot perspective, but the whole movie basically like happens in rain, and they have to animate every single raindrop for the entire movie. And wow. It's incredible to see how thorough they are with all of that, and how beautiful just all of that director's movies are. So I'll take Your Name.
Sticking to your guns. I think that's a beautiful choice by you. Kody, you got the do you want the second pick or the third pick? I'll let you pick.
You can have the second pick. I think I had it our last draft. Go ahead.
All right, I'll take Mad Max Fury Road here then.
Good
just
pick.
a real incredible movie. Very excited for Furiosa. Mina was talking to me like, after Dune Part 2, now that that's out, what is my most anticipated movie to finish out the year? And I don't know, Furiosa is definitely in the top 3 for me. So I'm gonna go Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah.
Cody, you've got 2 picks, man.
Oh, I like where I'm at, but great pick. I think Fury Road is an easily 5-star movie for me. Obviously, I'm probably more excited for Deadpool, if I'm being honest, but definitely excited for Anya Taylor-Joy. I got back-to-back picks here. I mean, first pick, an abomination that Korbin left us on the board, but I'm going to Ratatouille. We're sticking in animation. I figured your name would go early here too, so I'm a bit disappointed. But Ratatouille, one of the best Pixar movies of all time, one of the best protagonists, and just a goated film. So love that. And then my second pick, you just mentioned Denis. We did it in Denis episode this season, and it was my pick. I'll take Prisoners. I don't think it's his best or my favorite, but it's still amazing. That scene of Gyllenhaal driving the kids to the hospital as an old timer. So I'm happy with those two picks here.
It was definitely her. Not the Ratatouille as much as
Yeah, I was gonna say you don't like
Prisoners.
Ratatouille.
But Prisoners, that Denis, he's big
him.
right now. He's having
him.
he's having his day. So I will pick Tip. No, I'm just kidding. I'll take the classic one Oscar winning film, Barbie. Shout out to Billie Eilish, and also to I'm Just Ken. So Greta Gerwig, obviously one of my favorite filmmakers. And while Barbie is not my favorite of her movies, it was still a huge cultural event and a fantastic tightrope that she walked to get that executed beautifully. Christian, you've got two picks here, man.
I'm going to take talented Mr. Ripley. The way Matt Damon plays Mr. Ripley is a joy to watch in that movie. But what I mostly remember is I read the book after I watched the movie. So, just seeing this man bullshit his way through life is a interesting take. The other one, am I allowed to make a meme pick? Is that okay?
Of course, yeah.
For the third pick, you got to make a meme pick.
No, I'm going to do Captain Marvel.
Ooh,
just
the
for
Flurkin.
Respect. The Marvels took it to a new level as well, but I like that pick.
Hey, no spoiler alert. Nobody saw the movie, Cody. So.
What's the cat's name? What is it? Shit.
Goose. Top Gun.
Goose. There it is. Great reference as well. Rip Goose.
Cody, or just kidding, it's me.
I was gonna say, it's your pick.
I'll wrap us up with Talladega Nights, the Ballad of Ricky Bobby. Got to go for a comedy pick here, and I know Cody was eyeing it for the wrap up here. So a true classic. Will Ferrell. He interrupted Dave Roberts in a pregame interview a couple days ago. He's just trying to get ABs, man. Put him out there.
Sweet baby Jesus. That's a great pick. Shout out Chip. I think I was definitely going to take Talladega Nights. I'll go with Predator for my last pick. A fun episode.
R.I.P. Carl Weathers.
Yeah, rip Carl Weathers, obviously. Happy Gilmore is a classic, but fun action movie. Yeah, I'll take that with my last pick.
Weekly watches. What have we been into?
Karen, honey, what are you watching?
Cody, what have you been watching? Obviously Dune Part 2, but we're going to do an episode on that. So say your thoughts.
So we haven't recorded for a little bit. When was Your Name our last episode? That was a couple weeks ago.
Well, yeah, because we did the other one before.
We did First Friday 5 and a couple in betweeners, but we haven't talked about Rex for a while. So bear with me a little bit here. But like you said, Dune Part 2 I did see in theaters. We'll go over that. I've been checking out some movies I missed in January and February. So first off, on Max, I checked out Aquaman 2, whatever the subtitle is. It's pretty bad. Yeah, that's it. I wouldn't recommend it. I really like James Wan as director as well, and I think he really just got screwed by kind of the changing of the guard with the DCEU, so I feel bad for him, but this is still a very bad movie. Also, I checked out Mean Girls on Paramount Plus, obviously the musical remake. I'm kind of a big fan of the original, if I'm being honest. Lindsay Lohan, sort of her golden age of movies, but I mean, this one didn't really add anything new. Sure, the music was fine, and Renee Rapp was a good Regina George, but I didn't really enjoy it too much. Probably both of those about 2 stars overall out of 5, so wouldn't recommend. Past that, I did check out a lot of good movies, though. I saw Anatomy of the Fall before the Oscars. I freaking love this movie, dude. This movie is amazing. That Pimp song is stuck in my head constantly. That's been on my playlist, just like that acoustic version of it, or whatever you want to call it.
Drum
is dope. So shout out that. Also, the kid actor is crazy good. The dog actor is crazy good. There's not an actor in this movie isn't crazy good, and all the lawyers have just French drip. So I love that movie. Couldn't recommend it high enough. Other than that, I checked out 12 Angry Men for the first time. Oldie, but still pretty good. I'd rec it. And then American Fiction, I also checked out before the Oscars as well. Jeffrey Wright's awesome. That cast is amazing. Sterling K. Brown is amazing as well, obviously. Maybe the ending is a bit too meta for me, but overall, it's a strong rec as well. I think it probably does deserve to win adapted screenplay, even though I was surprised by it. But I think it was a good surprise. And then lastly, TV-wise, last night I actually started watching season 1 of Community, which I know Corbin might be excited by. But a long time ago, I watched the pilot episode and I absolutely despised it. And I was like, just for some reason, I was like, hey, maybe I should check it out. Because I mean, I like all the other NBC comedies. And I made it through 3 episodes and I enjoyed it. So I think I'm going to try and binge it as quickly as possible. So stay tuned for that.
I will be surprised if you get through all 6 seasons.
Really?
Of Community.
I mean, they're saying for sure like this movie is coming out.
Yeah.
Eventually. So I kind of just want to be involved and go watch the movie. So
I've never gotten all the way through.
I barely got through the pilot, so we'll see how far we get. But yeah.
It is like I do think the first couple seasons, and you'll see. I don't know if it's the end of season 1, end of season 2. The paintball episodes, which are directed by the Russo brothers. It's the reason why they got hired by Marvel. It's honestly like really good TV. And also shout out to Oscar winner Ludwig Göransson, the man, the music man on Community.
Of course.
It has been a while since we've recorded, but I also haven't been watching a ton of movies. I'll throw out a couple ones that I liked a lot. The movie Blowout from 1981, Brian De Palma starring John Travolta, kind of a neo-noir political conspiracy movie about a guy who is like a sound technician, sound mixer, Foley artist for films, who's out recording one night and captures a crime on his recording device and then tries to solve it, kind of figure out what's going on from there. A lot of really cool split screen stuff, split diopter stuff, and also all of the sound design and the use of that in context of movie making and filmmaking is really great. And I really loved the movie. Super young Travolta. And then also a really creepy Lithgow performance on the side as well. So
I love that.
I've never really gone too deep into the Brian De Palma world, but this movie makes me more interested for sure in seeing more beyond just, the Mission Impossibles. Also rewatched Crazy Stupid Love, Bottoms, and Belfast, 3 movies that I enjoyed quite a bit. And then Last Action Hero is a film that I watched free on YouTube, kind of, I guess, because of Predator. It's, Arnie movie directed by John McTiernan, director of Predator. And I was really blown away with how much I liked it. It's a really fun, like meta movie about movies where like a kid goes into an action movie with Arnie and then Arnie comes into the real world and he meets the real Arnold. Like there's good stuff. I think it is a little long. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes and it drags for a bit, but it's just a parody. It's a satire the whole time. And it is very smart and it's very 90s and it's got a decent kid performance at the center of it. So I'd recommend Last Action Hero. And I would not recommend the movie Elysium. Sorry, Matt Damon. Sorry, Neil Blomkamp, but that one
Blomkamp, the downfall of Blomkamp,
yeah. Blank check for Blomkamp does not work, sadly. Christian, I'll throw it over to you. What have you been into, man?
Last week, I watched Perfect Days. It was interesting to see, it's a very simple movie in the sense, it's dude keeps going to work, cleaning toilets the entire time, but finding joy in your daily routine and appreciating the little things in life, the beauty in the world around you. So I really enjoyed it. So that was definitely something I saw recently. To stick with the anime theme, series that I've been watching right now, it's called Furine Beyond Journey's End. It is kind of set in like a D&D setting. How familiar you guys are with
I've seen the
D&D.
movie. I've seen Stranger Things.
But what's interesting about it is like it has like a typical party. The main character, it's this elf mage. Like you have a hero, like a soldier. There's a dwarfed warrior, and then the priest is like your healer. And they're just like a party. They went on a 10-year journey to defeat the Demon King. And the movie starts at the end, or the end, where they defeated the Demon King. It's like, wow, we defeated the Demon King. What's next? And she's an elf, so she has a pretty long lifespan. She's already lived 1,000 years by the time they got to that point. But, it's like she's recreating the journey she took with on the hero's journey when they defeated the Demon King. But, it's like getting new perspective on moments that she shared with them, even though they are now long past. It's a very interesting series so far because I haven't watched anything like it before. It's like, yeah, what do we do at the end of the journey? Like, surely people's stories continue. And
I like that.
Just finding perspective after that.
Very nice.
That was cool.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Christian.
Appreciate you coming on, man.
It's been a great episode and a joy to have you back. Let's not wait 1.5 years to get you back on next time. Thanks, man.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to be a part of another episode.
As Kody and I said at the beginning of the episode, we've got our 3-year anniversary pod coming out
Yes.
this weekend, and then we got a new season starting after that. So lots of fun stuff coming forward.
Craziness. Yeah. Stay tuned for a lot more Cap. Stay capping.
Peace.
Peace.
I was going to share a story about Carter. I was talking about Perfect Blue earlier. I was supposed to watch that movie with him in theaters, and because they were showing it in AMC for like a special anniversary. And I bought us the tickets for it. I gave him the address. The theater that I usually watch movies with him at, it's in this place called it's a different theater. And so where they were showing it was like in a theater downtown in Chicago. So I was there. It's like waiting. I get a text from me. It's like, I'm here. I'm like, what? It's like 5 minutes before the movie's supposed to start. And he's like 30 minutes away in a different theater. And so he ended up going to the wrong theater. And so I ended up watching that movie by myself. Yeah. I was like, damn. I mean, he was pretty apologetic, but it was kind of like funny.
Carter showing up to the wrong theater. That's tough on tough. Did you at least enjoy the experience, the solo movie going experience?
Watching it, but it was kind of weird because like my roommates were going to get dim sum. They invited me along. It's like, oh, I'm gonna go watch a movie with a friend, and then I texted him. I was like, kind of wish I was at dim sum with you guys right now.
That is
like it was a packed theater, and I was in the middle of like the row. But I just laugh about it now because it's just kind of funny looking back. We both made it to the right theater the next movie we saw, so at least
there we go.
There you go.
You learned from the mistake.
Mm-hmm.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.